Most people think losing yourself happens suddenly, like a breakdown, a dramatic moment, a visible collapse. But the truth is, you don't lose yourself all at once. You lose yourself quietly, slowly, almost invisibly. And by the time you notice, you don't recognize who you've become anymore. There's a verse that most people read, but never really feel. Mark 8:36 says, "What good is it for someone to gain the whole world, yet forfeit their soul?" Let that sit with you, because this isn't about losing success. It's not about failure. It's about something far more dangerous. You can be winning on the outside and disappearing on the inside. Today, I'm going to show you 7 signs you're losing yourself. And the last one is where most people realize it's already been happening for a long time. Number 1, you no longer hear your own voice. You used to know what you believed, what you felt, what mattered to you. But now, everything you say sounds like an echo of someone else. You adjust your opinions depending on who you're around. You filter your thoughts before you even understand them. And slowly, your identity becomes a reflection, not a source. Most people think this is maturity, but it's not. It's disconnection. Because when you lose your voice, you don't just lose opinions, you lose direction. And here's what most people miss. You cannot follow God clearly if you cannot hear yourself honestly. Number 2, you feel tired even when you've done nothing. Not physical tired, soul tired. You wake up already drained. You go through the day without energy. Not because life is hard, but because you're constantly performing, pretending, adapting, holding up a version of yourself that isn't real. And that kind of exhaustion doesn't come from work. It comes from misalignment. The Bible says in Matthew 11:28, "Come to me, and I will give you rest." Not sleep, rest. Because real rest doesn't come from stopping activity. It comes from returning to truth. Number 3, you say yes to things that feel wrong. This is where it gets uncomfortable. Because deep down, you know when something isn't right. You feel it immediately. But instead of listening, you override it. You say yes to avoid conflict. You agree to avoid rejection. You stay to avoid loneliness. And each time you do that, you trade clarity for comfort. But here's the deeper truth. Every time you ignore your conviction, you weaken your identity. And over time, you stop trusting yourself completely. Number 4, you chase things that don't fulfill you. You achieve something, and it feels empty. So you chase the next thing, and the next, and the next, thinking, maybe this one will finally feel right. But it never does. Because the problem isn't what you're chasing, it's why you're chasing. Mark 8:36 isn't just a warning, it's a diagnosis. You can gain everything externally and still feel nothing internally. Because fulfillment doesn't come from accumulation, it comes from alignment. And when you lose yourself, no achievement can replace what's missing. Number 5, you avoid being alone. Not because you're busy, but because silence feels uncomfortable. When everything gets quiet, something surfaces. Questions, doubts, a feeling you can't explain, so you fill the space. With noise, with scrolling, with distractions. But here's what most people don't realize. Silence doesn't create confusion, it reveals it. And if you can't sit with yourself, it's often because you've drifted too far from who you are. Psalm 46:10 says, "Be still and know that I am God." Notice the order. Stillness comes before clarity. Number 6, you feel like you're living someone else's life. This one hits deep. You're doing things that look right, things that make sense, things people expect. But inside, there's a quiet question. How did I end up here? You followed the path. You made the right choices. But something feels off. Because purpose isn't found in approval. It's found in alignment. And here's what most people miss. You can build a life that impresses everyone and still feel disconnected from it. That's not success. That's misdirection. Number 7, you don't recognize yourself anymore. This is the final stage. Not dramatic, not obvious, just unfamiliar. You look at your decisions, your habits, your reactions, and something feels different. Not better, not worse, just not you. And here's the hardest truth of all. You didn't become someone else overnight. You slowly abandoned yourself, one compromise at a time, one ignored conviction at a time, one quiet, "this doesn't feel right" at a time. Until one day, you wake up and realize you've been living disconnected from your own soul. But here's the part most people never hear. If you can recognize this, you haven't lost yourself completely, because awareness is the beginning of return. The Bible doesn't just warn, it invites. Mark 8:36 isn't just asking a question. It's asking you to reconsider your direction. Because your soul is not gone, it's waiting for you to come back to truth, back to alignment. back to who God created you to be. You don't need to rebuild everything overnight. You just need to start listening again to that voice you've been ignoring, to that conviction you've been silencing, to that truth you've been avoiding. Because the moment you choose alignment, everything begins to shift. So here's the question. Which of these signs did you feel the most? Don't overthink it, just one. Type return in the comments if you're ready to come back to yourself. Because the people who recognize they're drifting are the ones God is already calling back.